Okay, ayan. Good afternoon and welcome to the video discussion of our first module for my students in Ed 5, no? So yung Ed 5 subject natin is entitled Facilitating Learning, and in this subject we will be discussing different theories being applied to actual classroom teaching or being advised among education students to be studied, no, for you to be able to have the initial or partly grasp of what is or how is to on how to facilitate learning, no, inside the classroom. Now I have two major discussion for this first module. We have the facilitating learner teacher teaching on metacognition, the concept of metacognition, and the multiple intelligences theory. I'll be discussing to you how these ideas or how these theories would be very beneficial for a teacher as he or she is facilitating best learning for your students to be best taught, no? And we will start with metacognition. Yan. So in the latter part of the video, or probably after this short video, after this metacognition, I'll cut. Then I'll be sending you the part 2 of the discussion for module 1. The first topic that I'll be sharing with you is all about metacognition. And metacognition, when we study facilitating learner-centered teaching, it's very important because it gives the idea for the teacher to be aware, to be ready on what to do with students of different personalities, different traits, different orientation, and for you to be able to best facilitate these type of diverse traits or behavior of your students, you need to study metacognition. Now, metacognition was introduced as you try to look at your module, was introduced by John H. Flavel in 1979. Yan. So, the metacognition, the term metacognition is literally means cognition about cognition, or more informally being introduced as thinking about thinking. Okay, again, it is being introduced as the concept of thinking about thinking. Why teacher is expected, or why teacher is necessary to be having this idea that as he is doing teaching among his students or her students, he or she needs to have advanced thinking about what this type of students are thinking, no? Ano ba yung mga iniisip ng mga estudyante na dapat naisip na ng mga teacher ng advance? See? Kasi lagi natin sinasabi, no, kaya ka teacher kasi more or less advanced ka in terms of education exposure. Now, for you to be able to best translate that education that you have, or that exposure that you have in you, no, you need to facilitate best learning. Yan, sabi dito. So that's the most important term. Tandaan niyo yun, metacognition is thinking about thinking, cognition about cognition, the word meta and the word cognition. So Dr. Flavel defined metacognition as a knowledge about cognition and control of cognition. If you have an advanced thinking, or if you have an advanced idea of what your students may think or may do, it is for your own advantage as a teacher, because more or less, if that is within the four corners of the classroom, you have the tendency to control or best manage your students, or best facilitate their learning, no? Kasi nga sabi natin, yung metacognition daw ay pagkaroon ng advanced na nalalaman, at along the way So, there is such idea of controlling, no? Yung controlling in the sense, dahil inuunahan mo yung mga bata sa pwedeng magawa nila or maisip nila. Like for example, when you have this set of students, grade 3 students in your class, in your subject is science, when you do outside activities or when you tell your students to go out to probably learn about the discussion of the topic photosynthesis. So before you will bring your students outside, you need to lay down the best possible precautionary measures. Why? Because you have this thought in mind that these students, if they're out of their classroom, might do something, something which are not being asked of them to be done. So, kaya ang ginagawa mo, sinasabi mo sa kanila agad, no? Para magkaroon ng limitations yung pwedeng actions na pwede nilang gawin. So, that is one illustration of the importance of studying metacognition. Now, under metacognition, as a topic about highly cognitive pag-iisip, so metacognition is basically involves thinking one's own thinking process, such as study skills, memory capability, the ability to monitor learning. So this concept needs to be explicitly taught along with the content instruction. So metacognitive knowledge is about one's own cognitive processes and understanding of how to regulate those processes to maximize learning. So, why is it this type of topic or discussion is exclusive for education students? Because we will be dealing with these different traits or behavior of our students in the future. You need to have an advanced idea of the different traits or personality of your students for you to be able to efficiently connect with them. And as you connect with them, you tend to create the bridge or the channel for them to learn. And as you do that, as that connection is being done, these students are learning. These students are indirectly learning. So, pwedeng directly or indirectly learning. Now, you have to remember that in education, the best measure that when to say that you're an effective as educator is that there is that learning happen or experience or encountered by your students, and they are not just aware during the process, but they will appreciate or they will reflect later the impact of the activity that they did, and it made them realize of something that is something that is worthwhile para sa kanila. So yun ang learning. Kaya maisip ka, kaya pala yun, so we have two types of metacognitive knowledge, so binanggit ko na kanina yung metacognitive knowledge. Under metacognition, we have the metacognitive knowledge. Metacognitive knowledge is your basic understanding of what other students or other people inside, like for example in your classroom, what other students are thinking about themselves or about other students inside the class, or it can be what are my students thinking about me as their teacher. That's metacognitive knowledge. Metacognitive knowledge is basically some sort of just what is present at certain condition. So that's it. Limited lang sa ganon. So what are the type of metacognitive knowledge? So we have, I think I have three here in our module. So we have three types of metacognitive knowledge. Number one is content knowledge. Number two, task knowledge or the procedural knowledge. And number three, the strategic knowledge or the conditional knowledge. Let's focus our discussion on the first type of metacognitive knowledge, the content knowledge. Content knowledge or declarative knowledge, this is what I was mentioning earlier, no? This is the ability of every student or every individual to comprehend or make assessment of his own knowledge of probably the subject matter or anything that is present within his surroundings. Pwedeng yung mga nakikita niya, no? So, it is notable that not all metacognition is accurate, of course. When you think of your student's mental activity, it does not necessarily mean that those thinking that you have, no, with that particular students are accurate or entirely correct. Kailan nagiging basihan lang ng mga guro minsan sa pagpapasya yung kanyang experience doon sa tao na yon. So kaya naging nagamit niya yung experience na yon para magkaroon ng judgment sa kanyang susunod na gagawin. Number 2, yung tinatawag nating task knowledge. Yung task knowledge ay tinatawag din siyang procedural knowledge. This type of metacognitive knowledge is this deals with the ability of one to evaluate the difficulty of the task related, no, to their overall performance on the task. So the accuracy of this knowledge was skewed as students who thought their way was better, easier, also seemed to perform worse on evaluation, while students who were rigorously and continually evaluated reported to not to be as confident but still did better on initial evaluation. So task knowledge is our ability to process things while literally doing or performing the task, no? So kaya yung mga iba, ito yung mga madiskarte sila in the sense na kaya nilang unahan yung iba kahit hindi mo halata sa kanila na capable sila of doing. So that's procedural knowledge, no? And this person are usually highly highly mobile, no? They make use of their psychomotor ability. Yan. So let's go to the strategic knowledge. So, strategic knowledge is one's own capability for using strategies to learn information, no? So, young children are not particularly good at this. It is not until upper elementary where students start to develop the understanding of strategy that will be effective. So, ano yung mga halimbawa ng mga strategic knowledge? You were able to halimbawa, parang pag mayroong problema, yung nalulusutan nila. Yan. They have mga paraan, no? Paano gawin. But again, as being studied, no, as being introduced by our mga developmental psychologists, may mga may mga limited consideration. Like for example, kung bata-bata, hindi pa talaga niya, no? Kaya yung mga bata very honest sila. Yung mga medyo may edad na, when you ask them, they tend to make some sort of lie kasi kaya nilang lusutan. Yan. So metacognition in general, encompassing the study of memory monitoring and self-regulation, meta-reasoning, consciousness, awareness, and auto-consciousness or self-awareness. So in practice of these capacities are used to regulate one's own cognition. So it is being introduced not only to teach us, no, as future educators, to better understand other people, to better understand our students. Instead, it would like also to teach us as educator to better regulate what is in us, what are the things that we need to learn for us to better facilitate learning, no? So pagtuturo ito ng pagiging mindful din, no? So mindful, kumbaga introspective, iniisip mo ang iba, iniisip mo rin ang sarili mo. no? Iniisip ko rin yung both conditions. Yan. It can also, sabi dito, it can also lead to the reduction in response time for a given situation due to heightened awareness and potentially reduced cycle time to complete problems. Yan. Okay. So, so we have three major components. Kanina binanggit ko yung types of metacognitive knowledge, paano nagkaroon ng metacognitive knowledge, no? So nabanggit natin yung tatlo, ang content knowledge, task knowledge, at saka ang strategic, no? So may mga counterpart yun. Let's go to the classification of metacognition, and it is being classified into three components, no? Nabanggit ko na yung una, metacognitive knowledge or metacognitive awareness. Number 2, the metacognitive regulation and the metacognitive experiences. So as mentioned, binanggit ko na kanina, no, metacognition is the idea of thinking about thinking. Yan. So, para nangingialam ka ng iniisip ng iba. So, nabanggit ko na rin kung ano yung tatlo na yon. Yan. So, similar with metacognitive knowledge, metacognitive regulation, yan. So, sa component. So, sa metacognitive regulation, mayroon din. So, mayroon din tayong 3 skills that are essential, no? So, ano ito? Para maging maayos ang mga gagawin, 'di ba? When we say, 'di ba, pag may gagawin tayo, we start with a good planning, no? Before we execute. Now, under metacognitive regulation as components of metacognition. So, tatlo ang components ng metacognition, ito yung yung metacognitive knowledge, metacognitive regulation, and metacognitive experience. So, under metacognitive regulation, meron tayong tatlong essential skills that you need to study as future teachers. So, we have planning, monitoring, and evaluating. So, planning refers to the appropriate selection of strategies and the correct allocation of resources that affect task performance. So, like for example, that is why in our actual class session, when you will become teacher someday, it is very important that you need to prepare your teaching and learning plan, or also known as lesson plan. Why? What's the purpose of this? When you prepare your lesson plan, you are preparing to best at your own best capacity to deliver the content that you have. And in doing so, this content must be coupled by your best strategy. So, kaya ang mga paghahanda, no, para maging maayos ang performance ay requirement yan sa teacher. Hindi pwede na hindi kayo handa bago magturo kayo. Kasi pagdating, magagalit lang kayo sa classroom. Yeah, next. So, monitoring. As you perform as you witness the progress of your performance, it is very important that you monitor, no? You monitor its progress, no? Pag may kailangang i-correct along the way, magdo-double effort ka, no? So that is monitoring. Another is evaluating. Evaluating is commonly also known as the process of assessment or making judgment. So this is the time where both you as a person who would like to really objectively submit for improvement, ito yung ginagawa natin, no? Para malaman kung mayroon bang pagbabago or mayroon bang kailangang ma-improve. Yan. So, yun ang ating number 2. Hopefully mahanap natin ang number 3. So number 3 natin ay metacognitive experience. Yan, okay. So it is very important that, no, pinag-aaralan natin ito. Usually buhay ng ibang tao ito, no. Yung metacognition is thinking about thinking. Mas particular ka doon sa iniisip ng iba. kaysa sa pwedeng isipin mo sa sarili mo. Ginagawa nating mga teachers yan bilang malaking bagay ng paghahanda, no? Kung paano natin mabigyan ng it's either or wall or bridge, no? Yung bata para makonect tayo. Wall in the sense na gusto mong iset yung, ay teacher ako, dapat diyan ka lang. Bridge in order for you to better reach out for your students. Yan. So, magkaiba yun. Okay. So, let's go to metacognitive experience. What is metacognitive experience, no? So, metacognitive experience is responsible for creating an identity that matters to an individual. So, the word itself, metacognition and experience, dalawang words siya, no? The metacognitive skills that are used to review an essay. Yan. Hindi pala, mali ako. Saan dyan? Okay. The creation of the identity with metacognitive experience is linked to identity-based motivation model. So, ano daw sinasabi? The identity-based motivation model implies that identities matter because they provide a basis for meaning making and for actions. Meaning making, no? So, a person decides also if the identity matters in two ways with metacognitive experience. So, kailan tayo nagkakaroon ng thinking of like for example of negative thought about sa isang tao or positive thought sa isang tao? Kapag meron tayong mga na-encounter na experiences na pwedeng secondary source. Halimbawa na kwento niya, na ay si ano magaling yan. So nagkakaroon ng identity building yung tao na yun na kinukwento sa iyo sa sarili mo, no? And sometimes this serve as your basis, no? Para magkaroon din ng personal judgment tungkol doon sa ano bang ine-expect mo tungkol sa kanya. Yan. So generally, no, and to sum it up, when we talk about metacognition, no, these are the things that teachers should know because it gives a good preparation for teachers to better teach your students. You need to think your students and at the same time think of what you can do with your students, and when you do that, how these students may learn from the things that I'd like to do for them. Yan. So pag hindi ka nag-aral ng metacognition, hindi mo ito alam, hindi mo siya malalaman. So for more information about metacognition, you can read the entire module that I gave you. But if you'd like to just get the grasp of it, so ito na yun yung sinasabi ko sa inyo. Now, after this video, after this 30-minute video that you are watching now, we will be moving on to the next video. We will discuss the multiple intelligences theory as introduced by Dr. Howard Gardner. Yan. So, we will try at the end we will try to identify the relationship of metacognition and the study of multiple intelligences by Dr. Howard Gardner, and ano kaya yung mga magkakapareho nilang pinaniniwalaan o yung contrast nila. Yan. So for now, I'd like you to maximize this video, no? Don't forget to subscribe to this channel for you to be able to get some of the things that you need to understand about our subject matter. And in this video, in this YouTube channel, you can also get some other past videos that I have for you to be able to study if you'd like to get some inputs about it. So bye for now. wait for my next video after this. Thank you very much.